How to deal with nervousness and anxiety when around people. This was what my latest MindYoga client came in with. And we went on this really beautiful journey with a lot of imagery, including planes and cakes and unicorns, all of the things. A really, really cool experience that to facilitate and hold, all around this topic of wanting to not feel anxious and to not feel nervous when talking with people and when around people, that it didn't feel good, that there was this nervousness in them when around people, this feeling like they needed to say the right thing or being afraid of saying the wrong thing. And maybe that sounds familiar to you. So how to deal with that? Well, it's going to be individual for every person, how the path that we go through to get there. But with this individual, where we ended up was taking time to relax. They recognized that when they're with people and having conversation and they feel they get stuck and they don't know what to say, rather than getting anxious about it, if they just relaxed and allowed things to just flow effortlessly, then they would end up saying the right thing. And so we went on this journey to figure out, okay, well, how can they go about relaxing and not suffering as a result? And they came to the conclusion that taking regular periods of time throughout the day to just reside in a meditative state is a good way for them to do that. Whether that's right for you, who's to say? Everyone is individual. What I want to talk very briefly about is how this ties into tantric teachings. So this idea of meditativeness, it's about stepping out of mental construct, out of mind space, allowing conscious awareness to dissolve and melt away from its attachment to egoic thought construct from the mind and return to a sense of really divinity or essence, self, essence, nature. We can often lose sight of our essence nature. We become so distracted and distraught by the over identification with the mind, with the thoughts, with the constructs, with the emotions that are then attached to that, because in tantric teachings, in the heart-mind layer of consciousness is the same layer of consciousness, which means thoughts and emotions are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. That they're just different ends of that spectrum of consciousness. That thoughts are more mind and analytical, and emotions are more somatic and embodied and felt, but they're the same. And when we get so overwhelmed by all of that, we over-identify with them and we lose sight of the truth. We lose sight of what is actually occurring and get lost in our conceptualization of reality. We lose sight of the fact that what we perceive to be real is really a construct within ourselves, that it is an expression of ourselves. So by taking the time to sit in a meditative space, to step away from the everyday and return to a sense of presence, or return to presence awareness, we can regain our sense of essence nature. We can return to a sense of peacefulness and calm and joy and love, and be able to make decisions from that space. Because when we're making decisions from a heart space, they're decisions that are going to be beneficial for us rather than detrimental to us. They're going to be things that are going to promote our well-being rather than things that are going to accentuate the suffering that we're experiencing. Oftentimes we can try to make decisions from a place of fear, from a place of suffering, from a place of lack, because we have over-identified with the limited sense of mind. Whereas if we return to our essence nature, that limitless sense of divine consciousness that resides within us, individuated by our unique expression of our being, then we can return to a place of bliss, ananda, and flow into the world. Allow life to flow through us rather than trying to squeeze it into our own desires. It's the difference between the divine expression of will, which is limitless, rather than the limited trying to achieve and attain something. It's an expression from rather than acquiring of. It's a really fundamental difference. It's I'll be speaking into this more in Tantra Tuesdays about what this means and the implications of it. But the takeaway from this was taking time to return to essence nature, to return to sense of divine awareness, divine consciousness, rather than getting lost in the mind and lost in the emotions. And in that way, that can help in alleviating not just nervousness, but suffering that you're experiencing in general. And I get it, this is really hard. Meditation isn't necessarily easy, especially if it's something that you're not used to. And overcoming the mental emotional knots of the mind and samskaras and mental impressions and the unconscious is really challenging to do oneself. This is why having a guide, this is what I do in MindYoga, where I navigate with you the complexities of the heart-mind space so that you can work out those knots and achieve the resolution that you're looking for, so that going forward you don't have to continue suffering, you don't have to continue trying to overcome that hurdle, that knot, because it has been smoothed out. So if you are interested in either overcoming nervousness and anxiety or anything else, if there is something that is creating dis-ease within you and it's been a long time, or it's long enough now or painful enough that you're wanting to overcome it, then book a clarity call and let's chat about that change.